I've never seen people online in recent years can directly attack and criticize a party secretary of a province. That's in the past 5-7 years, it's basically impossible to do so.
Sounds like they're just saying ching chang chong.
My chance new girl watch made in China. We play ping pong ball made in China.
Hello and welcome to China Econ Talk. Today is February 3rd, 2020. In this conversation, we'll be taking a timeline of media coverage of the past few weeks of the coronavirus and use it as a jumping off point to discuss broader themes of censorship and the role of media in society. Our guest, Tony Lin, is a producer at Quartz for Because China and a longtime Weibo researcher and observer. He's also looking for a book deal to write about censorship in China, so if you like what you hear and can write him a check, please hit him up on Twitter at Tony_ZY. Also, if you'd like to support the show, please find my Patreon at patreon.com/ChinaEconTalk.com. Tony, welcome to China Econ Talk.
Thank you for having me.
So, Tony, let's start with the first rumblings that there was an issue within the medical community in Wuhan.
Yeah, I think in the end of December 2019, there have been rumors about a mysterious pneumonia or a new kind of SARS. These kind of rumors have been circulating the internet and WeChat for quite a while before everything became official. And at that time, 8 people were briefly detained and reprimanded. So basically on social network, and there have been a lot of gossips about this pneumonia, which is fascinating. And after a while, in the early January, everything became so much more serious, especially at a time when we see Japan, Korea, and China's other neighboring countries have spotted the virus, foreigners and people in Wuhan. And after January 20th, there had definitely been a turning point, and all of a sudden, people became much more aware of what was going on out there.
Sure. So let's stay focused on this early period, Tony. Why was the government's initial reaction to punish these doctors and sort of deny that there was an issue in the first place? What was going through their heads?
I can't say on behalf of them, but there has definitely a pattern for the local government to basically cover up the unstable incidents in the early stage. Actually, Quartz, our Because China team, is working on a video right now. By the time the podcast is published, our video will be online.
Can't wait to check it out. So how and why did momentum build that the government, you say, around January 20th, was no longer able to keep a lid on the story?
Yeah, I think we need to go back to look at this particular incident, this disease. This is very similar to any other events, public events or disturbances in China. For example, the African swine fever, or a few years back when Beijing was trying to kick out all those low-end population. But this particular public health crisis there are 3 aspects that are very, very different. So the one is this is very time sensitive, so you can't really just drag it along and hope that people can forget about it, much like the earthquake or baby formula situation. And the second is this is a public health crisis. So the second difference is it essentially affects everybody, not just one small group of people, one particular group of people. So you can't really use certain kind of narratives to alienate the group and pick fight between people.
What sort of narratives would that be? And what's an example of that?
A very easy trick is to paint certain kind of people who are advocating human rights as bribed by foreign forces and stuff like that. But this time, everybody is affected. So you can't really say all these people, the entire country has been, bought by America. And the third difference...
The national debt's too big.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the third part is this is a public health crisis, and if you hide information, if you censor everybody who's sick, this is not to your advantage because the government also tried to make the disease, make the contagious disease go away. So if you just block all the information, it's actually very, very hard for them to address this issue. So all three things together, it made this event, it gives the whole discussion a very, very brief window of media reporting and public discussion.
Yeah. So that final week in January was really something like I've never experienced
Oh my God.
on
Yeah.
Chinese social media. So maybe first off, before we get into some of the stories themselves, like what was your just like what was it like for you to sort of be part of this incredible stream of news and the whole country turning to one issue and sort of discourse being freer than it ever has been in a number of years now?
First of all, I have been covering other stories, and and a lot of times I source on Weibo and other Chinese social media, and I couldn't do anything because nobody's talking about other stuff. Everybody, my entire timeline is washed by the discussion on this epidemic. So, well, I think only Kobe Bryant's death had about 1 day of discussion, and it went away very, very quickly. That's the scale and the depth and the directness is also astounding. I've never seen people online in recent years can directly attack and criticize a party secretary of a province. That's in the past 5-7 years, it's basically impossible to do so. But somehow, all of a sudden, people can find a space to do that.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah.
The six questions people were demanding the party secretary answer.
So for me, what I saw 2 days ago was a 5-minute video of Hubei's party secretary answering a CCTV reporter's 2 questions. The first question is, what does he think about some people block the road for people who return from Hubei? The other question, I think it's about the medical supplies. And the Hubei party secretary basically gave a 5-minute no answer reciting a pre-prepared text. That's all normal. That happened before, and that's expected. What's unexpected is that people can actually take that 5-minute video and post it online and directly say this answer sucks and they're not doing their jobs. That Weibo was reposted for 30,000 times. That warrants like tens of millions of views. That is, I think even 10, 15 years ago, that's very, very rare. And normally these kind of information would be deleted over a matter of seconds, if not hours.
Do you want to guess like what the dynamics are that have allowed this space to be created to talk about these sorts of issues?
There are a few different. Well, my guess is that there are different dynamics play into it. One is that the central government had definitely signaled to media that they are allowed to do a certain amount of in-depth reporting, including Global Times and CCTV. They even get to criticize what's going on down there locally on the Wuhan government and Hubei government. CCTV, I think there are several segments directly challenge what is going on out there. And what I've been told anonymously from on-the-ground reporters, basically, there had been a brief lift of censorship. The other part that might also play into it is that it's during Chinese New Year break. So a lot of censors are not at work right now. So actually yesterday was the very first day.
They're stuck at home too.
Yeah, they're stuck at home too. Yesterday was the first day of people going back to work, and you can see immediately there have been large scale of deletions, and I myself was briefly blocked on Weibo for a little while.
That's unbelievable. If that's
Yeah.
actually one of the causes, that's just too perfect.
Yeah.
They gotta pay these guys overtime. They gotta get them, ding talk or whatever. Get some remote access.
Yeah, actually, Ding Talk yesterday experienced tremendous problems because a lot of people, they do not go to work. They work from home. So all of them are communicating over on Ding Talk. And that's not good for the platform.
So the fact that an entire new generation has been able to see a moment where people have been very actively criticizing the government, does this mean anything in the long run? Does this change anything?
I don't know. I have no idea, but it certainly gives me hope. One of the funniest moments on Weibo these days is that there's a fangirl who all of a sudden he or she just came up with an idea basically saying that much like the reality TV show popular in China, like Produce 101, we should have a TV show called Produce Officials. And people should, and we can just live stream and see how these officials work and vote them off. And then people retweeted and commented, you are just reinventing the concept of democracy, which is awesome. It's definitely a re-enlightenment to the younger generation, I'd say, but I don't know how long that's gonna last because people have very short memories.
That's a beautiful thing. I think Israel actually a while back they had like a "So You Want to Be a Diplomat" like reality TV show to join
Oh my God,
their
that's
foreign
brilliant.
ministry. So democracy in China is probably not going to flower anytime soon. Though I would certainly buy a 10-cent video membership if it would get me early access to the "So You Want to Be a Bureaucrat" episodes. Anyways, but that said, aside from the criticizing the government aspect, there's also been, an entire week where the whole country has been just trying to find information about what is actually going on when it comes to the coronavirus. I had a friend told me that this was sort of like a civics course, like a giant nationwide media literacy colloquium. Do you see any potential fallout of people perhaps reading news in a more enlightened, critical way after this experience of trying to understand what's going on with the coronavirus?
Oh, absolutely. I think one of my friends, very close friends, she posted that her parents are used to be the most steadfast party supporters and who supported constitutional amendments and all of that, basically everything. But this time, they basically lost a lot of trust to not just local, but also central government. I think partially because this thing actually directly affect their life. And definitely the government on the local level and central level made a lot of miscalculations in terms of public perception and the epidemic, the outbreak itself.
I heard a really good anecdote for a friend. He was telling me that back in SARS, there was all this like ridiculous fake news going around with his parents and his grandparents' generation about like how traditional Chinese medicine is going to cure this and whatever. But this time he said like his parents and his grandparents in their Pengyo trend and their sort of like friend circle, they'd be forwarding around like total garbage articles. And they sort of realized it and were asking the younger generation, like, hey, is this real? Like, what are you guys reading? Like, I feel like we're not getting the real deal here. So seeing, especially because like everyone's at home, right? So this opportunity for like the young, college educated crowd to maybe talk to their parents and grandparents about like what is and isn't totally bullshit is a fascinating dynamic and may have consequences in the future, probably not, but it's certainly something that's never happened before.
Yeah, I really hope so. But when it comes to Chinese medicine, it's definitely, the government is behind. My personal experience is that 2 days ago, I reposted one article basically in Guizhou Administration of Traditional Chinese Medicine. This is an actual bureaucratic branch. And they released a notice asking people, not just medical researchers, random people to give advices and possible Chinese medicine prescriptions to cure Wuhan virus. And people are very baffled by this. And yesterday, my repost was banned. So other people can't really repost it. So there's definitely still a very, very strong support from within the government for Chinese medicine and many of, I don't want to comment on Chinese medicine itself, but many of this push, they're not going through strict scientific process.
Yeah, I mean, it's my favorite post was like someone, I think Global Times at some point, they're just like, have like 2 eucalyptus roots and whatever, and you'll be fine.
Oh, yeah, that one.
And someone on Twitter was like, yeah, and like, why don't you just like drink some like child's urine as well? Might as well throw that in there.
Because that particular recommendation was posted by a Wuhan lab, one of the biggest lab. So the research was done by a lab in Wuhan in collaboration with another lab in Shanghai. And they just post like straight up crazy Chinese medical solutions out there. And it was reposted by People's Daily. So there's that.
Let's talk a little bit about the platforms themselves. How has discourse on Weibo changed over time?
So basically, I think there is a consensus on, the outbreak is bad and the government should have been more transparent and all of that, and people are not happy with what's going on out there. But I think the discussion is much more nuanced, and a lot of times it focuses on different aspects of this natural disaster. So people are swinging between holding the government accountable and cheering up for people. But in the meantime, there are constant new news events coming up, and people are trying to expose corruptions and expose how horrible it is on the ground, different kind of things. So I don't think there is a unified discourse here. So that's another evidence showing that it's not that heavily censored. Usually, when an event that's heavily censored, there are certain kind of information contamination, and there are people who are paid to make certain kind of comments and drive the thing into some kind of a agenda, into a narrative. But this time I actually see a pretty diverse, more of a discussion happen in civil society, I guess.
Tony, can you talk a little bit about the sort of pro-party doxing that's been going on?
So let me put it this way. When the outbreak just started, the government was not very clear, not very transparent about the situation out there, and there are a lot of patients stranded at the hospital, or they're being sent away from hospital. And they're not exactly sure if they had this new disease or not. And by now, we know the situation was a lot worse than what had been exposed. But during that time, it was basically under the dark. It was a black box. So at that time, a lot of patients and patients' family members, they came forward and saying that, okay, we are detected, my family had contracted pneumonia or this virus pneumonia, and we don't know what to do. We're being sent away. We want to hide ourselves. We want to be put in quarantine. What should I do? And some of this Weibo got a lot of attention. But in the meantime, most people, they pay sympathy to what's going on. They're trying to hold local government and hospital accountable. But in the meantime, we do see a huge amount of people whom I volunteered to basically censor or try to block or attack these people who are seeking help. So basically what they're saying is that you guys are liars, or you guys are creating panic. You might not actually have this new disease, but why are you at the hospital wasting people's resources? So that was a very clear narrative. And then the narrative evolved into a new one saying that these people are paid or they're Taiwan spies creating this panic as an attack on the government. Which is very, very sad because later some of these patients and family members got verified and their family actually died from the disease without any diagnosis. Or some actually got the diagnosis later and not many people actually came out and apologized. Yeah, it's one of the saddest moments. So these people who have their family member dying while they're being doxxed, they're being attacked online for seeking help.
You want to tell the story of the 3 people?
Yeah, there are different cases. One case is that there are 3 women posting, sending out posts saying that my aunt is sick and she had this pneumonia. And then a lot of very, very big Weibo influencers were calling them out and saying that you guys are Taiwan spies. How come? And you guys just use one prepared text. So that's why you guys are all have an aunt dying. It turned out the 3 women are cousins. Of course, they have one dying aunt. So there's one. And the other person, it's devastating because I followed the case. And she had been attacked from the onset. So in the end, her dad passed away. And not many people who attacked her actually apologized.
Yeah, it's the
worst dark corner of the internet to me. And the thing is, all these people who attack these patients, they are doing it under the name of debunking rumors. You guys are spreading rumors. And they demand people to release their medical records, CT scans, all of these. And some people actually complied. The attackers, they would just find a new angle to so-called debunk the rumors. Yeah. The trolls, I think, yeah, it's pretty horrible.
And their motivation, it's partly just for the lols and also out of a pro-party line.
I wouldn't say all of them are pro-party. What I would say is it definitely comes out of a place of cognitive dissonance. In the beginning, a lot of people, or still some people, they still don't refuse to believe the situation is as bad as people say. And they are trying really hard to disprove what they've been told, what they have heard, as if by calling out these rumors can actually make them feel better about their current situation. That's my guess.
Sure. So it's more like no, the sky isn't falling down. We don't want to own up to the fact that there's this new scary disease. Could you elaborate on the roles that the platforms are playing in being truth arbiters to these stories?
Yeah. Let's take a step back. So one of the biggest problem in the early stage of the outbreak is that most people who are suspect of contracting this virus cannot get a solid diagnosis. And for the hospitals to actually admit these patients, they must give out diagnosis. So without diagnosis, all these people must be sent away and basically put themselves in self-quarantine. So the main problem is you cannot get diagnosis at the hospital. But if you put this information online and seek help, you will be put down and attacked for seeking help without a diagnosis. So more and more people came out with this issue, and Weibo started to institutionalize a speedy verification system, basically just give patients a way to give them a blue-orange tick, saying that, okay, I confirm that you are an actual patient or a patient's family member. But the problem is the situation is much, much worse, and not everybody has the online infrastructure or the resource to get themselves verified. A lot of other people, they're reporting on other issues, much like what's going on with the local hospital, what's going on with local Red Cross, the NGO, the organization. It's actually not an NGO. But the problem is Weibo, by institutionalizing this verification system, it actually excluded a lot of people and made Weibo a platform to verify the gossip. The most urgent issue is to have more transparent information and let people to speak up. But this verification system doesn't necessarily help. It actually creates more barriers and give the trolls more ammunition to the normal people who are not verified. Okay, you're not verified, so you must be spreading rumors. And I saw a lot of trolls attacking people with this excuse.
So we've been talking a fair amount about Weibo. Do you want to talk a little bit about the dynamics of WeChat and WeChat articles?
Yeah, sure. I think, first of all, the whole thing started with WeChat. Doctors discussed in their WeChat group saying there's a new SARS-like virus going on and people must watch out. And these doctors are briefly detained and reprimanded and given a warning letter, which is not very legal. There's no due process on that, but it's a completely different issue. But WeChat has also been a huge source of information, both misinformation and the in-depth investigative journalism. So when it comes to WeChat, there is one genre of WeChat articles that really caught my eyes. So these WeChat articles are the odes to the virus and to the outbreak. Basically, they are very emotional articles praising how great this outbreak is, so that it can bring all the people together and build the country, make the country stronger. So basically turn a disaster into a celebration, which is very, very disturbing. Even though this kind of article is not, it doesn't only occur in WeChat, but WeChat system actually has the more people share it, the more the actual monetary benefits the poster can get. So it won't prevent people from posting these pretty disturbing pieces out there. But there is another thing is a lot of netizens, they use WeChat as a citizen journalism source. One of the biggest WeChat events in the early stage is that people found a WeChat article from a Hubei performance group saying that we just had this great Chinese Lunar New Year gala, and our Hubei party secretary and the governor, they all attended this event. And that was like around January 20th. And people were furious about that because there's an outbreak. Yet you are all these officials. They're out there attending this gala. And this particular WeChat article even praised the performers, saying how heroic they are. Some people, they actually strive through code to perform on the stage. And people are like, are you crazy?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's insane. And that actually created one of the early waves of criticism against the local party officials.
And I will say, in spite of the death of the vast majority of investigative journalism, there still are a handful of Weixin Gongzhong Hao that once they were able to write stuff, have written some pretty fantastic investigative pieces with on the ground reporting that do real coverage. And every once in a while, they only, some of these articles, they get 100,000 shares, which means, 30 plus million people are reading this stuff, and then disappear within 6 hours. But the fact that there are still people out there writing this sort of stuff, I found encouraging, at least.
Yeah, for sure. I was talking to Maria Repnikova the other day. Yesterday, actually, she was writing a op-ed. And we both think, even though we don't know how long this stage will last. Actually, I think it ended yesterday. But this resurgence of civil society and people's participation in public events, this gives me some kind of hope.
Tony, thanks so much for coming on China Econ Talk.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
China Econ Talk is edited by Jason McRonald and Kaiser Guo and is a proud member of the Sinica Network from SUP China. For other great shows on China, check out the Caixin Sinica Business Brief, the Pan Daily Tech Buzz China, the New Voices Podcast, and of course, the Sinica Podcast, now in its 9th year. Until next week.